Everyone, we negotiated a shorter time for us because there's 4 or 5 people after us, so we're going to keep this very simple and quick. Yeah. So I talked to you before about your philosophy around DAOs and how you were doing that. Do you want to just tell the audience quickly about your approach?
So I've built an incubator where we've realized that the regular content cohort and demo day model doesn't work. So we wanted to build a decentralized incubator, and we realized that it may look like a DAO, but on purpose we did not make it into a DAO, primarily because there's not enough tooling, there's not enough structure in terms of governance, and now we have a 150 member tribe which essentially mentors the startups and works with them by taking some kind of token participation. But this is run through a centralized team. The interesting conversation that we had outside was, why not DAO? And primarily because we don't know how DAOs are going to function as yet. And that's where the entire interesting conversation started, that in terms of tooling, we don't know how to maintain a large community. Let's say 1,000 people in our Discord cannot be managed. Coordination is a major problem. Second thing is, DAO governance today is at a very nascent stage. It's almost like for $1,000 spend, everyone of community member has to come and vote, and then we call it voter apathy. It doesn't really look like a democracy as yet. So how do we form a democracy? And that's the conversation that we started. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I think it's interesting that you're saying it's super early, because that's what we're hearing from a lot of the other speakers. So a DAO is a decentralized, autonomous organisation. Our philosophy, Multilateral Group, we're building the DAO for the metaverse utopia. Emmanuel presented earlier, and he talked about the ethical issues of data and metaverses and so on. So a DAO has an incredible responsibility to govern a metaverse, but nobody's really done this before. So the only analogy from history that I can look at is when companies were first established and the whole idea of a limited company or a joint stock company was invented. So we think the category of DAOs is equivalent to corporate law. So that space means that we need to work with regulators, because this is really a governance layer of the metaverse. It's also a governance layer potentially for AI, and so it's a discovery space. Now that's incredibly uncomfortable, so there isn't any experts.
What you're doing is right at the frontier of everything that's supposed to be a promise that Web3 offers, right? And if this evolves into employee, CEO, board kind of a structure with token instead of shares, do you think this is what we are headed towards? Or a lot of people are talking about headless organizations like ENS and...
Simply put, do we really want to build corporations again? I don't know anybody who wants a corporate job these days, honestly. And I don't hear any ambition from the younger generations to work inside corporates. Don't think so. So the future of work needs a tailored new set of ideas. So I'm going to accelerate past the idea of a DAO and say it's really a digital organisational structure. It's a collective intelligence problem. So decentralised or distributed mindsets require a whole new level of communication. And you said there wasn't enough tools.
Oh, definitely.
Okay, Discord doesn't work. Discord's not working.
So, everyone agrees that Discord is terrible.
And Discord's the security flaw for a lot of the NFT stuff. Okay, people's projects are getting cleaned out. It's not working. So there needs to be a whole new level of media communication thinking going on here. And I don't mean going back to Web 2 to solve this. We can't use social media to do it. It's not going to happen. So the tooling space probably is the open territory at the moment. It's the big business opportunity around DAOs. That's
so.
Yeah.
The way I see this is to build a DAO for Utopia as a metaverse. First is the communications layer. How do you organize, let's say, a community of maybe 100,000 users at least to be able to communicate with each other, have some sanity. Some of the projects that I've seen are doing it the guild way by creating guilds and then maybe segregating people. One other thing that I can think of here is reputation and decentralized identities, because you don't want to be interacting with a bunch of wallet addresses, right? That's another big gap there, right there, before DAOs take off.
Okay, so what we need is a Web3 LinkedIn, first of all, to establish reputation. And it's not going to look like LinkedIn, right? Because it's going to be wallet-based. So that hasn't been built yet. I'm talking to people who are building these sorts of things in the background because I'm an angel investor as well, so I get a look at a lot of interesting ideas. The second thing, around 100,000, no pressure, right? 100,000 people, trying to get them to vote. How's democracy going at the moment, people? Have we lost trust in democracy? Have we lost trust in our government? How's that going to work, realistically? So you mentioned guild, which brings up cooperatives. Guilds are a very old idea from the Middle Ages. So we do know something about a mutual community-owned organisation. There's been a lot of history there. What I'm going to do is lean on knowledge systems from cooperatives, and cooperatives work. They actually work legally, commercially, socially, and bringing those blueprints inside a DAO structure is a way to have a legal, tax-paying DAO inside an environment. But then we need to add AI ethics, we need to add some really new things. So the fusion state of AI to DAOs is the opportunity space.
Yeah. I think if we were to look at cooperative models, the primary reason why they're not as popular as the corporate model today is, this is what I've observed, is my guess of what we were discussing outside, is bureaucracy. Because the moment there's cooperative versus a corporate structure, the CEO is at least an appointed dictator in some manner, in some ways, at least till the time the board doesn't fire this person, right? And whereas cooperatives tend to be a little slow in real life implementations, and we've seen a large pool of experiments being done, but corporates have turned out winning. So maybe we need to go back to the Middle Ages of DAOs, run them as cooperatives, and then come out on the other side, maybe in 5 years or 10 years or how much ever time it takes, to figure out now how does a CEO emerge, right? Or a leader emerge, which makes it sharp and fast, maybe.
Okay, so AI. What's interesting about DAOs that already exist is they're doing governance in public. That's new. That's also searchable, which means it's indexable. So no corporate boardroom has ever published publicly everything that goes on. That does not happen. Governments do not publish the governance real discussions. They don't, but DAOs are. So the opportunity space for humanity here is a new governance layer for the planet because these people are doing it in public. That's incredible. So AIs can actually look at sentiment analysis, can look at the languaging, can look at the quality of dialogue. This is an opportunity to depolarize social media interactions. It's a new kind of dialogue. So this is about the structure of language itself and the quality of language and the quality of dialogue. So having an AI support and bring the temperature down in conversations to stop people from polarizing, because we've all been jacked up by Twitter and so on. It's very aggressive. So having a quieter, tighter, higher quality level of distinction in the conversations needs to be supported. That's a positive use of AI. And I don't hear very many positive uses of AI out there. So That's what we are actually doing. So I'm just going to say one last thing. Web3 does not want to talk about CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. It is not a conversation that is actually had in public because blockchain maximalists don't know what to do about the 195 countries in this world having their own digital currency. Can you imagine the weight difference between the size of the money of governments to Bitcoin or Ethereum? I can. It's not very hard, right? It's easy to understand that when digital currencies turn on in 2025, 26, 27, there's going to be a whole new paradigm. So what I'm doing with a lot of corporates right now is I'm bringing them into the metaverse so they can practice with NFTs having a metaverse currency. That is the first baby step to having a corporate branded digital currency. That is a counterbalance to CBDCs. And I'm talking about governance at a very grown-up level here. We need the corporates, weirdly enough, and I can't believe I'm saying this, corporates have the responsibility back to civilization to work this out. So
what you're saying is my Starbucks points will be corporate branded digital currency someday?
Yes.
And I can buy more of it, I can sell some of it
yes.
that I don't use anymore?
Apple is going to have their own digital currency. Tesla will. Elon's definitely going to have his own digital currency, people. That's going to happen in the next 3 to 5 years. Those are going to be the largest consulting gigs on the face of the earth. That is the most money ever turning into digital currencies. Google will. Amazon's probably the most interesting because AWS is internet infrastructure. If you could offer people a discount for buying Amazon services, especially AWS to corporates, that'll be one of the largest currencies on earth that is funded by real revenue. That is not a blockchain idea. That is a corporate treasury idea that's going to use blockchain.
And they will have their own monetary policies?
Right. Now,
each one of them?
Stakeholder capitalism, or membership capitalism as I like to think of it, is the opportunity space to put a DAO next to a corporation, and then they have to deal with the real governance issues of having a social and customer currency against the corporate governance level. And then we set up a second set of governance at a DAO level against the board. And I don't mean positively, I mean adversarially. Okay? Because the stakeholders are cut out of corporate governance anyway. Everybody knows this, let's just say it, right? So now you have the customers and suppliers in a DAO. You have governments in the DAO. But you have the normal corporate board on the other side. So that, if I had more time, I'd talk about that. But that's what I think is going to happen. And I know that because we're doing it.
That's an exciting future. No wonder it's called utopia. I think my only observation here is that DAO governance has not been thought about from ground up. Primarily speaking, we just look at every proposal and every token holder is supposed to vote on it. That's like telling me to vote on who's going to build the road outside. Every citizen doesn't need to vote on these things. So just the basic infrastructure of who represents the token holders, how their expertise is measured, and delegating some kind of voting power to these people, which looks similar to a parliament, is what I am looking forward to. If a few DAOs execute something like this, maybe we go back to what democracies look like today, and that's not a very pretty picture either. I know no one likes that, but that's going to be way better than today because we're blaming voter apathy, but voters don't care for $1,000 proposal in a large DAO. No one's going to come out and vote for this. You may give them incentives, but it's not going to work out. So I think the conclusion is we don't know. The larger answer is we don't know.
Let's leave it there.